The year is 1850. The United States stood at a crossroads with slavery threatening to tear the nation apart. The North's booming industry clashed with the South's agrarian, slavery-dependent economy. The stage was set for a conflict that would test the principles of liberty, equality, and the pursuit of happiness. The year 1850 marked a turning point in American history. The discovery of gold in California reignited the debate over slavery in new territories. A new generation of Americans would navigate the nation through the stormy seas ahead. In 1850, compromises aimed to soothe North-South antagonism, but the Fugitive Slave Act ignited fierce resistance. The law required Northerners to capture runaway slaves, turning free soil into hunting grounds for slave catchers. The act deepened the divide, turning ordinary citizens into defiant activists. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin galvanized public opinion against slavery. The book's vivid depiction of slavery's horrors resonated deeply, fueling the abolitionist movement. It was a testament to literature's power to inspire empathy and ignite social change. The 1854 Kansas-Nebraska Act, promoting popular sovereignty, backfired, leading to Bleeding Kansas. Pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions clashed violently, with elections marred by fraud and intimidation. The violence further inflamed national tensions. The 1857 Dred Scott decision denied black citizenship and declared the Missouri Compromise unconstitutional. The ruling outraged the North and galvanized the anti-slavery movement. It pushed the nation closer to the precipice of war. The 1860 election became a referendum on the Union's future. Lincoln's victory led Southern states to secede, forming the Confederate States of America. The nation teetered on the brink of disaster. The Civil War began in 1861 with the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter. Early Confederate victories gave way to the Union's turning point at Gettysburg in 1863. The war tested the nation's fabric, leaving an indelible mark on history. The end of the Civil War in 1865 marked the start of Reconstruction. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments redefined freedom and citizenship, abolishing slavery and granting equal protection and voting rights. These amendments laid the groundwork for future civil rights advancements. The Freedmen's Bureau, established in 1865, aided newly freed African Americans. Despite efforts, Southern states enacted black codes to restrict their freedom. The struggle for equality faced fierce opposition, with groups like the Ku Klux Klan undermining Reconstruction efforts. Section 3. Radical Reconstruction, Military Rule, and its Aftermath. In response to the South's resistance to Reconstruction efforts, Congress implemented Radical Reconstruction, a period characterized by more stringent federal oversight and military intervention. The Military Reconstruction Act of 1867 divided the South into 5 military districts, each governed by a Union general. These districts were tasked with overseeing the establishment of new state governments that upheld the rights guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. The presence of federal troops ensured that new state constitutions were written, guaranteeing the rights of African Americans. These new governments also saw the election of African American legislators, a significant step forward in political representation. However, the implementation of Radical Reconstruction was met with fierce resistance from many white Southerners who viewed it as an imposition and an affront to their way of life. Despite the progress made during this period, the end of Reconstruction came abruptly in 1877 with the Compromise of 1877, which resolved the disputed presidential election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden. As part of the compromise, federal troops were withdrawn from the South, effectively ending Reconstruction. This withdrawal marked the beginning of the Jim Crow era, during which Southern states implemented laws that enforced racial segregation and disenfranchised African Americans. The end of Reconstruction was a significant setback for civil rights. The hard-won gains of the Reconstruction Amendments and the efforts of the Freedmen's Bureau were undermined by the rise of Jim Crow laws and the entrenchment of white supremacy in the South. Despite these challenges, the legacy of Reconstruction lived on, providing a foundation for future generations to continue the fight for equality and justice. Section 1. The Rise of Industry. From farms to factories, a nation transformed. As the dust settled on the battlefields of the Civil War, a new era was dawning in America, the Gilded Age. This period, spanning from the 1870s to the turn of the century, witnessed an unprecedented surge in industrial growth, transforming the nation from an agrarian society to an industrial powerhouse. Factories sprouted up across the land, their smokestacks piercing the skyline, their machines humming with relentless energy. The driving force behind this industrial revolution was a confluence of factors: abundant natural resources, a growing workforce fueled by immigration, technological innovations, and a spirit of entrepreneurialism that seemed to permeate the very air. Railroads, those iron horses of progress, crisscrossed the nation, connecting distant markets and facilitating the transportation of goods and people on an unprecedented scale. Names like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Vanderbilt became synonymous with the era's immense wealth and industrial might. Andrew Carnegie, a Scottish immigrant who rose from humble beginnings, built a steel empire that fueled the nation's growth. John D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon, consolidated his power, creating a monopoly that controlled the flow of this vital resource. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the railroad magnate, amassed a fortune connecting the nation with his vast network of tracks. This era of rapid industrialization brought about profound changes in American society. Cities swelled with new arrivals seeking work in the factories and mills. The nature of work itself was transformed, as machines replaced skilled artisans, and mass production became the order of the day. The Gilded Age, while an era of immense progress, also brought about new challenges and social inequalities that would shape the decades to come. Section 2. Cities of Dreams and Discontent, Immigration, Urbanization, and the Challenges of Growth. The lure of opportunity in America's burgeoning industries acted as a magnet, drawing millions of immigrants from across the globe. They came from Europe, from Asia, from all corners of the world, seeking a better life for themselves and their families. Cities, once centers of commerce and culture, became melting pots of humanity, teeming with new arrivals speaking different languages, practicing different religions, and bringing with them their own unique traditions and aspirations. This massive influx of immigrants, while providing much-needed labor for the nation's industries, also strained the existing social fabric. Cities struggled to accommodate the rapid population growth, leading to overcrowding, inadequate housing, and sanitation problems. Tenements, those cramped and often unsanitary apartment buildings, became symbols of the challenges faced by urban dwellers. Ethnic neighborhoods emerged, providing a sense of community and familiarity for new arrivals. Little Italies, Chinatowns, and other ethnic enclaves offered a taste of home, a place where immigrants could speak their native language, practice their customs, and find solace among those who understood their journey. However, these neighborhoods often faced discrimination and prejudice from the established population, fueling tensions and social unrest. The Gilded Age, while a time of immense economic growth, also witnessed a widening gap between the rich and the poor. The captains of industry amassed vast fortunes, living in opulent mansions, while many workers toiled long hours for meager wages, struggling to make ends meet. This disparity in wealth and opportunity would become a source of social and political conflict in the years to come. Section 3. A nation divided, labor unrest, and the fight for workers' rights. The Gilded Age, for all its progress and prosperity, was also marked by labor unrest and a growing movement for workers' rights. The conditions faced by many workers in factories and mines were often appalling. Long hours, low wages, dangerous working conditions, and child labor were commonplace. Workers, seeking a better life for themselves and their families, began to organize, demanding fair treatment and a share of the wealth they helped create. Labor unions, such as the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor, emerged as powerful voices for workers, advocating for better wages, shorter hours, and safer working conditions. They organized strikes and protests, bringing the nation's industrial machine to a standstill in an effort to force concessions from powerful corporations. The Haymarket Riot of 1886, a violent clash between striking workers and police in Chicago, became a symbol of the growing labor movement and the resistance it faced. The Homestead Strike of 1892, a bitter battle between steelworkers and Andrew Carnegie's Carnegie Steel Company, further illustrated the tensions between labor and capital. The Pullman Strike of 1894, a nationwide railroad strike that paralyzed the nation's transportation system, brought the issue of workers' rights to the forefront of American consciousness. President Grover Cleveland's decision to send federal troops to break the strike, siding with the railroad companies over the workers, highlighted the government's often sympathetic stance towards big business. The Gilded Age, despite its gilded facade of progress, was a time of intense social and economic upheaval. The labor movement, though facing fierce opposition, laid the groundwork for future reforms, paving the way for a more just and equitable society. The Gilded Age was a time of remarkable technological innovation. Inventors, driven by a spirit of progress, sought to harness nature and improve lives. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell's telephone revolutionized communication. Distance was no longer a barrier to human connection. Thomas Edison illuminated the world with his incandescent light bulb. Edison's work revolutionized urban life, extending the day into night. These innovations reshaped the American experience, fueling economic growth and sparking wonder. The Gilded Age laid the foundation for the technological advancements of the 20th century and beyond. Section 2, A New Manifest Destiny, the Spanish-American War and America's Rise to Global Power. As the 19th century drew to a close, the United States found itself increasingly drawn onto the world stage. The Spanish-American War, a brief but decisive conflict in 1898, marked a turning point in American foreign policy, signaling the nation's emergence as a global power. The seeds of the conflict were sown in Cuba, a Spanish colony struggling for independence. When the USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor in February 1898, killing 266 American sailors, public outrage in the United States reached a fever pitch. The American public, fueled by sensationalist journalism, blamed Spain. Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain, became a rallying cry as calls for war echoed across the nation. President McKinley bowed to public pressure and Congress's declaration of war in April 1898. The Spanish-American War, dubbed a splendid little war by Secretary of State John Hay, saw the United States quickly defeat Spain with its superior naval power. The Treaty of Paris, signed in December 1898, ended the war, granting Cuba its independence and ceding Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines to the United States. The war marked the end of Spanish colonialism and the rise of the United States as a major player in world affairs. The legacy of 1850 to 1900. The period between 1850 and 1900 stands as a testament to transformative change in American history. The nation faced its greatest test with the Civil War, a conflict that nearly tore it asunder. From the ashes arose a new sense of national purpose, redefining freedom and equality. The decades following saw a nation grappling with the legacy of slavery, seeking to heal and forge a more just society. The Gilded Age showcased industrial might and innovation, but also revealed stark disparities and challenges. As the century turned, the U.S. stood at a crossroads, poised to embrace its role as a global power. The legacy of 1850 to 1900 continues to shape American identity, reminding us of resilience and the ongoing struggle for justice.